time for, once again, one of our favorite chuds, Tim Pool. Conservatives face media purge. Walk away and journalists banned. Left demands Trump be banned. Hey, good news. Good news, left. Trump has been banned. Hooray, we did it. We did it. Mission accomplished. Tim Pool's upsetty spaghetti. Let's go.
Following the events at the U.S. Capitol, there have been reports from many personalities, not just right-wing individuals, that they were losing thousands of followers. I have seen myself lose only a few hundred followers, but it's hard to know exactly how many you're losing and how many you're gaining. For instance, over the past several days, I've seen the number of followers I have on Twitter go down by a couple hundred, but then go up a little bit and then go down by a couple hundred. And it may actually end up being 1,000 or so, but it could be that I lost 10,000 followers and then gained 9,000 more. Hard to know for sure. But even some individuals like Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, tweeted that she lost around 4,000 before deleting the tweet. Another personality, Christopher Rufo, said around 2,000. We don't know exactly why these accounts are being removed, what
Probably bots and people who are advocating for violence.
they are, who they are, or why. But there's certainly some speculation. Based on what we're seeing,
Trump tried to use Melania's Twitter. Oh, God. What? Is there a link to it? Something about that? That's hilarious.
my personal opinion is that these are likely smaller accounts for individuals who are probably tweeting support for what happened in Washington, D.C.,
Probably.
and thus they are being banned. Many people are losing followers, but it's not like it's 1 million people. It may only be actually 5,000 people, but they followed a bunch of similar personalities. It could also be that Twitter is just doing a blanket purge of anybody who might get close to supporting what was going on. And we're seeing some pretty serious actions.
Does Tim Pool still have a Twitter account? If that's the case, then they definitely aren't doing that because Tim Pool has come very, very close to supporting those actions that we saw in his video the other day. Yeah, no, they're not doing that.
On my IRL podcast just 2 nights ago, the chat was disabled by YouTube. Now, I tell you, they say there was concerns about incitement, and there are a lot of comments that get really close to it generally on the internet. In fact, I have a comment from the group.
Specifically on your page, Tim, if you go and look at your comments section, which I've done before, and I did the other day when we watched your first video, which you were doing during like a live stream while the riot was taking place, well, the whatever you want to call it, Capitol insurrection attempt, coup attempt, whatever you want to call it. You were basically about to cream your pants, which is why I titled the video on YouTube that, because you were so excited. And if you look at your comment section, it's full of people egging these people on and saying that it's a good thing. You've cultivated an audience of people who are bloodthirsty for anyone left of Donald Trump, which is, as it turns out, most people in the country. You constantly bait people by being like, civil war, civil war, civil war. Let's take a look. Let's look up, let's just see if we go on his YouTube channel and we type in civil war. How many videos come up? Search. 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 I want it search. Yeah, man. Search it. Okay, let me do this. Why does Tim Pool talk? That's just from the majority report. Oh, look, there's me. Why can't I easily search it on his page? Come on, YouTube. Do your thing, okay? What if I just type civil? Can I do that? Why isn't the search function working? Gosh darn it. Lame. All his videos have civil war in the tags? You might honestly be right. Can I control F? Civil war? Let me see. Is that one? There's one. There's one. So there's at least 4 just on this page. One of them is my typing. Oh, if I do this. Here we go. It's not always in the titles, for the record. Civil. Okay, so if we do that, minus my civil in the search bar, there's 12 videos just in this much page that are about the Civil War, and that's just if it's in the title. That's not just if he mentions it in the video, because I can only control F the titles and not even the thumbnails. Sometimes he puts it in the thumbnail. He's constantly just riling up his audience and being like, a civil war's coming, Civil War 2, Electric Boogaloo, it's right around the bend, better get yourself some rations so you're ready for the second Civil War. Tim, you should be thankful every second that you and your beanie aren't banned from YouTube for this shit.
Institute, a leftist organization, praising the tactic of storming the Capitol.
Aviscus says, just checked, literally over 50. Thank you for checking that. I don't know why my YouTube search isn't working.
Capitol saying they absolutely would be in favor of it, which says to me, escalation, ahoy, boys. But anyway, we can only do so much when it comes to the internet in terms of moderation. So when you see these actions taken that would outright ban users for rhetoric, when it's in the tens of thousands.
Rhetoric. Want to say specifically what the rhetoric is, Tim Pool? Will you say out loud radical right-wing terrorism? No? Funny.
That's beyond the control of one person running a YouTube channel or a Twitter account. And thus, I think what we're seeing now is a mass purge of conservatives. It's not just these issues. Brandon Strzok of the Walk Away campaign has been totally removed from Facebook. Elijah Schaffer, a reporter from Blaze TV, has also seen his Facebook and Instagram banned. I think it's fair to say that we are seeing
Walk-away people are right-wing. They've said they've left the left, and most of them are just right-wingers who are grifting. But even if they're not, if they left the left, then right now they're probably on the right. So what do you mean, not only people on the right?
Conservatives. Now, maybe that's a little hyperbolic, so that one's on me. But the president himself is being banned. Joe Manchin, a Democrat, has called for Trump to be suspended from Twitter, and Michelle Obama says he should be permanently banned from all platforms, and that all these platforms should stop this kind of thing from happening again.
Yeah.
At the same time, Twitter has announced they will allow statements praising Uyghur concentration camps in China.
Doubt?
Now, I'm not necessarily advocating for any censorship in that capacity, just pointing out the nightmarish double standard in tweets praising concentration camps in China. Meanwhile, American conservatives are banned or restricted based on their speech. Let me clarify. I do not condone incitement to violence. It's illegal. I'm not a fan of violence. Most of you know I don't think it works. A lot of people give me historical precedent as to when they say it did work, but I actually think that's not true. I think it's certainly obvious to say that in certain instances throughout history, of course, storming the beaches of Normandy worked. I get it. War happened. You know, we got hit by Pearl Harbor. Hey, that didn't work, right? It could go either way. The point is, maybe in the past there was an effective nature to violence in terms of conflict, but we're in the information age. In order to win in the information age, you need to win the hearts and minds of the people. You do that by persuading them. Something I've talked about quite a bit, fifth generational warfare. This is why what I'm bringing to you today is so absolutely significant. In order to engage in fifth generational warfare, and again, it's not a reference to violence. It's a reference to arguing your ideas. I think that's great.
Oh, shit.
Following the events,
sorry,
the
the thing got clicked.
It's being taken away right now. They're being purged again, and it starts with Brandon Strzok of the Walk Away campaign. Now, I'll show you what he says. He's been completely removed from Facebook. He doesn't know why. He's calling for help. But we need to start with the context around Trump and how that is used as the cudgel to justify the removal of anyone who would support him. The New York Times reports
most Donald Trump supporters are not being banned from Twitter. People who advocate for violence are being banned, or who are promoting conspiracy theories that advocate for violence implicitly. You're not being banned if you're a Trump supporter. Tim Pool, you still have your Twitter account. Jeremy still had his Twitter account. He voluntarily removed it.
President is losing his platforms. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate. If you'd like to support my work, there are many ways you can give. I got a P.O. box. You want to send me some stuff. But the best thing you can do, actually comment on the video, like and subscribe. The engagement really, really does help. And then if you really want to help, you can share this. Apparently, engagement is great. And if you want to help me grow the channel, that's a great way to do it. But I think right now, as I'm talking about the seriousness of mass censorship, which is underway, maybe you should go to timcast.com/donate. And there's nothing else I can really say. Maybe we wake up tomorrow and my channels are gone as well because Facebook just purged Elijah Schaffer.
That'd be beautiful. Please, God. I don't even believe in you. But I wish only this. Ban Tim Pool and his beanie. There's no response. religious people have told me that's a good sign. Or maybe a bad one. I don't know. It's always the response.
I wasn't on the ground in the Capitol. I actually said on the IRL podcast I wouldn't go near it if there was actually some attempted revolution or of some sorts. And I thought my plan was going to be to go down and, have some people on do an interview. Following what happened at the Capitol, though, it is a mass purge. And the scariest thing about what happened is that when we saw the riots throughout the whole year with 30 plus dead, shootings, people like David Dorn, buildings being burned down, there was no mass purge of the left. Now, recently there have been some leftists who have been purged, because I think what's ultimately going to happen from all of this, what Twitter wants, what YouTube wants, what Facebook wants, they want to return to the era of yesteryear, when there were only a handful of channels you could go to, where there were strict editorial controls and the masses shared their opinions. It was easier to control that way. I think that's where we're headed.
What are you talking about? I've been on YouTube for 10 years, okay? I've been on YouTube for about 10 years at this point. I think it's closer to 9, but, YouTube has always had a ton of stuff, even in the early days. I'm not talking necessarily about 2005, but by 2007 or so, it was still full of people sharing their opinions. I was there during the, cringy internet atheist thing, which I was a part of before, most of them, 90% went alt-right shitheads or whatever. People have always been sharing their vitriolic opinions on the internet. I don't think that's going to change. However, yeah, YouTube's probably going to crack down and continue to crack down on incitement of violence and stuff, but you still have channels out there talking about whatever they want. But there are more channels on YouTube than ever at this point, and it gets difficult for them to be able to moderate that. I'm not saying I always agree with YouTube. I very much don't. They often make tons of mistakes and demonetize channels that probably don't deserve it. They end up promoting kind of milquetoast channels that don't have a lot of interesting things to say, but they have oh, look at us fill this pool with all these Orbeez. But that's the kind of trash, bottom of the barrel content that the general public likes. It resonates with a lot of people because it's simple, easy to digest stuff. And as much as I like stuff like Ordinary Sausage here on YouTube, he doesn't have a lot to say. He's a funny guy, but it's it's pap. It's silly stuff, and that's what YouTube wants to promote because that's what most people in general, it's the lowest common denominator, and I'm not knocking that. There's something to be said for junk food entertainment. But, that's not new, right? The hottest shows on TV have rarely ever been opinionated news shows. And when they are, they're jackasses like Bill O'Reilly or Tucker Carlson, right? But even then, they're not the most popular shows on TV, typically. Like The Big Bang Theory is. So, Tim, if you want to be a popular YouTuber, political punditry just isn't the way to go.
Channels that survive on YouTube and social media are the ones that do as they're told. Surprise, surprise, my milquetoast tepid opinions seem to be okay on YouTube. We'll see what happens to other people.
Wait, did Tim Pool just say that his opinions are milquetoast and tepid? Tim, you call for civil war constantly.
There are some channels that have been on hiatus for several weeks, and many people are wondering what's going on. We'll see. There have been some channels that have been deleted. We'll see. From the New York Times. After years of gentle wrist slaps, social media companies are finally revoking President Trump's megaphone. Now, this story is from Kevin Roose. I do not have a good relationship with this man. I know him personally, and I believe that he is not an ethical reporter. I can only say that as I preface this video with how much am I really going to trust him? I don't. He's written articles about the supposed YouTube rabbit hole, which researchers have said doesn't exist time and time again. The idea is that by going on YouTube, you'll see a video about some subject, and then you'll get trapped in a rabbit hole where you go deeper and deeper, and eventually you go from being a regular person to a far-right conspiracy theorist.
This does happen. It happens in basically all directions, whether we're talking about people being radicalized to the left or right, people being radicalized to the left, people being radicalized towards conspiracy mindsets. That is absolutely a thing.
That's actually not true. Many researchers, can you cite me a thing so we can look at it, Tim? Come out with data trying to claim that was true, haven't actually proven it. Some of these studies have ineffectively tried to claim that some channels are right-wing. For example, one study that came out recently argued that Shoe on Head who is, I believe she's a Democratic Socialist.
She is now. She used to not be. She used to do a lot of anti-SJW stuff, which I'm sure did help push a lot of people to the right.
I mean that literally.
I appreciate that she's changed, though. That's nice.
I think that's what she identifies as. They said she was far right, so it's clearly not accurate.
Their information was probably just out of date, and they were looking at her older videos.
But in another research from a group that produced something called Transparency Tube, they said there are echo chambers for sure, and that can create problems, but there's no driving factor. If anything, you'd be driven more towards normal content. But I digress. Kevin Roos says, after Wednesday, big tech platforms took their strongest actions yet against Mr. Trump, Facebook's chief executive. Mark Zuckerberg said on Thursday that the company was locking Trump's accounts until at least Inauguration Day, adding that the risks of allowing the president to continue to use our service during this period are simply too great. Earlier, Twitter and YouTube took down a video in which Mr. Trump praised the rioters and falsely claimed the presidential election was rigged. Now, YouTube has a rule that they put out, I believe it was last month, where they said you cannot make claims alleging that, you can't parrot what Trump had been saying. It's an easy way to explain it. And the reason I describe it that way is that I believe the rule change was specifically to remove Donald Trump's advertisements and advocacy for...
It was to stop people from spreading these baseless conspiracy theories, Tim. It's as simple as that. It is what it is. It's in the title of what the thing was. We are banning conspiracy theories about the election because they want to ban conspiracy theories about the election because, as we know, they are dangerous because they lead people to doing stuff like we saw on the 6th.
His claims. He had been alleging widespread fraud. He had been saying that he had won. And YouTube made rules saying you can't do that. It hasn't affected a whole lot of channels. Scott Adams did see one of his videos removed under these new rules.
It affected some. Cowboy Joe that we've covered on this show before got his channel banned.
Following the events at the Capitol, YouTube moved up their timeline and said, we will now be giving a strike and removing any video as of the 7th, which was just the other day. I believe that those policies were put in place to stop the president, not conversations around what the president was doing.
No, I'm going to say no on that one. I mean, it might be a nice side effect of that, but also no, it's definitely to stop a bunch of crazy people on YouTube from going nuts with conspiracy stuff. I know this. On Tuesdays, I do nothing but conspiracy theory videos and debunk them. There were a ton of people on the right who were saying things about the election that they got from Donald Trump, and they were spreading that message, and again, inciting people to what we saw on the 6th.
Like I said, the idea is, right now, to create a more unified public perception space. When there was only a handful of news channels, everybody was getting kind of the same information. You turn on one channel and they'd say, I think taxes are too high. You turn on another channel, I think taxes are too low. And I don't know who was saying that, I guess, but apparently, you get the point I'm trying to make. There would be wedge issue disagreements. And then we would have their election, and for the most part...
Tim, you can have your shitty right-wing YouTube channel, you just can't incite violence like you've continually done by implying that a civil war is imminent.
The American plan, as it was, would carry on like normal. But thanks in part to social media and the internet, Donald Trump was able to win and overcome Hillary Clinton. I think now what they want to do is they want to get rid of comments. Comments have been solely removed from many news websites because they don't want those conversations to exist.
I think it's often because those were shit shows. Have you ever seen the comment section on news websites when they exist? They're universally the worst.
I want to make it so that only a select few group of individuals are allowed to actually have channels. So like I said, we'll see if I make it through this, if my channels survive in the long run. Over at the New York Times, they say Twitter locked Trump's account on Wednesday until 12 hours after he deleted tweets that violated the company's policies and threatened a permanent ban if he violated more rules. YouTube removed Mr. Trump's video and said it would give strikes to channels that posted videos promoting false claims. The measures may be just a start. I spoke with several employees at Twitter and Facebook on Wednesday who said they expected their companies to ban Mr. Trump's accounts permanently. There is simply too much danger of continued violence stemming from his posts. And these employees who would speak only anonymously because the internal discussions were private, and few expect that a temporary timeout will be enough to dissuade him from fanning the flames. These people are still alive. They still exist. Alex Jones has his own particularly prominent platform. But to be fair, it is true. Alex
Can you define particularly prominent? The InfoWars website isn't that big.
Jones saw a major decline in traffic after he lost access to the big social media platforms. You can argue that it's a good thing because certain ideas are allowed to prevail and other ideas aren't. The problem is that's an authoritarian worldview. And if you're an authoritarian, I suppose
It's authoritarian for you not to let me just spread dangerous conspiracy theories about Sandy Hook being fake or whatever Alex Jones ended up getting sued for.
makes sense. If you believe in freedom, liberty, and individual rights, you would probably disagree with that. Case in point,
That's right.
I do.
Freedom is
But-
letting me yell fire in a crowded theater and to lie to people constantly.
As many on the left try to claim...
That's why fraud isn't a crime, by the way. You can just say whatever you want to people and there's no repercussions.
been effective. It's not, okay? What you need to understand is these people don't just vanish. They continue to express their ideas, but now they're angrier and unrestrained.
But now they're cut off from an audience. They're cut off from a general audience, and they're not as easily able to radicalize people, which is good.
If they went... Actually, I'm sorry. When they went to Alex Jones and told him he was going too far, he toned things back. There was one famous moment in his clip, one of his clips, while he was being, during the time frame of his banning, where he made a figure of speech, and then he walked it back saying, no, I mean that figuratively. Think about it. If the big networks just went to him and said, listen, do not say these things, okay? Then they could have had some control. Instead, they knew...
Because Alex Jones is a very stable individual that definitely does well with rules imposed on him.
What happened? Well, Alex Jones went and made his own platforms. And now he's getting substantial amount of views, and it's unrestrained. No arguments, no pushback, no fact-checking, nothing.
So shouldn't you be thrilled about that, Tim? Isn't that what you want? Seems like you're bitching about it because you understand that he's cut off from a majority of the audience that could potentially be watching him.
It was the wrong move. And these people think it will get better when they do this. It won't. Over at CBS 2 Pittsburgh, they say, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says President Donald Trump should be banned from Twitter for the next 14 days. Manchin responded saying 12 hours is not sufficient. He is a danger to our democracy and should be banned from Twitter for the next 14 days. Well, a temporary suspension. I have to wonder what Trump said explicitly that would warrant the suspension.
He was inciting violence by being continually, again, spouting conspiracy theories that the election was stolen. You know that, Tim. You know that.
Herein lies the next big challenge in the censorship. I think Trump's tweet was awful. I really do. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, man, not good. Because he said something to the effect of, this is what you get when you steal, when you take a historic and the sacred landslide away from the people, go home and in peace, never forget this day.
That's right, capitalistic
It wasn't
propaganda.
a direct incitement. But at this point, the president of the United States needed to make a stronger statement. Now, he went out and he did. He did. He made a statement. He posted it on Twitter. And he said he condemns the violence. He condemns the people who stormed in. Not everybody who went to the Capitol stormed in, mind you, but there was a decent amount. There are videos of people yelling heave and like shoving through rows of cops. And there's videos of police literally opening the doors and letting people in, saying that they agree to their right to protest. It's really weird stuff. I digress. I think it was a mistake for everybody. I don't think it should have happened. And it was a failure from everybody, from the mayor of D.C. to Trump to the people who went inside. That's a fact. And it only hurt their cause. But more importantly, Trump...
Bear in mind, yeah, the other day we watched Tim's video as it was happening live, and he clearly had like a boner under the table. Like, he was so excited when it was happening. I think now he's trying to walk back his excitement specifically because it failed. And he knows that he'll get banned if he's like, I wish that would happen more. Rightfully so. But, yeah, he was not being all like, oh, this is terrible when it was happening. He was very excited when it was happening.
didn't come out explicitly saying do anything. They're trying to claim he did because he said protest in D.C., be there. They're trying to claim he did because he said we're going to the Capitol. What they're arguing now is something called stochastic terrorism, where they argue that Trump...
Yeah, Donald Trump was like, I'm going to march with you to the Capitol, and we're going to show them they can't steal the election. And Rudy Giuliani was like, we should have trial by combat and a bunch of shit. They were inciting violence.
Knew they would do something. There's a famous piece of art that shows a match standing at a podium with the fire, which looks like Donald Trump's orange hair. And he's giving a speech to a bunch of angry cartoon bombs. That's the point they're trying to make. That while Trump himself doesn't explicitly say do something, they know that he's lighting the spark which will eventually trigger that explosion. The danger there is that the big tech companies who are unaccountable now have the authority to remove politicians from the public sphere and from the conversation. And they can do it on the pretext of, but what if what you said causes harm?
Yeah, because that matters. Do you think, and again, this is going to be Godwin's law, but I'm going to use it because it's what I feel is appropriate here. Adolf Hitler, after he rose to power in the Nazi Party, wasn't personally going around and doing Kristallnacht himself. You know what I mean? He incited others to take action. He told others to do things and incited them with the way he talked about the other within Germany, or what he considered the other in Germany, that being, Jewish people, gay people, non-whatever he thought was the fucking good shit. Whatever. Like, that's how it works. That's how fascism works. You have a charismatic leader that tells people and incites them, and then they go do things. No one said Donald Trump himself was going to go, punch, Pence in the face. However, he incites them and then tells them to go to the Capitol building where they're currently certifying the votes, and you wind up with hundreds, if not thousands, of MAGA idiots LARPing, carrying weapons, carrying pipe bombs, carrying restraints, chanting, "Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence." There's not a clearer A to B here that could possibly be said. This is Donald Trump's fault, and the fault of those who have enabled him.
And that's where we're heading. Beyond what Manchin said, Michelle Obama wants social media companies to permanently ban Trump. And as I already noted in the New York Times story, as much as I don't trust this individual writer, he's saying that Twitter and Facebook is talking about permanently banning Trump, and we all seem to think that would be the case.
They did at this point.
I know. I've gone back and forth a little bit. I've said it's entirely possible that come the 20th, they nuke his channels. But I'm not entirely convinced because Trump is making money for these platforms. Before Trump came around, Twitter was losing money and it was really, really bad. But I'll say this. At this point, considering what happened in the Capitol, I think they're going to nuke him permanently. Outside of the president, we're seeing the severity. Brandon Strzok runs the Walk Away campaign. The goal of the campaign is to convince people to walk away from the Democrats. He's now been permanently banned. He tweeted this: Facebook has removed the Walk Away campaign and has banned me and every member of my team.
I'm assuming they were advocating for some bad shit if that happened.
Over 500,000 people in Walk Away, with hundreds of thousands of testimonial videos and stories, is gone. Facebook has banned everything related to Walk Away. And he posted a screenshot. Your account has been disabled. They say for more information, please visit the health center. The help center. Your account was disabled on January 8th. If you think your account was disabled by mistake, you can submit more information.
Parler's gone from the Apple Store. They finally banned it. Righteous.
Maybe he will get things back. We'll see. They say in an email,
radical,
a message from Facebook. Hello, your page Walk Away Foundation has been.
You can't sideload apps onto iPhones unless they're jailbroken, right? That's just like a Android thing. Like, I have sideloaded apps.
Removed for violating our terms of use. A Facebook page is a distinct presence used solely for business or promotional purposes. Among other things, pages that are hateful, threatening, or obscene are not allowed. We also take down pages that attack an individual or group or that are set up by an unauthorized
So some
individual.
people are saying Parler is still there. Why do you guys give me false information? Why do you do this?
Misuse of Facebook's features could result in the permanent loss of your account. Well, as we now learned, it has been. Elijah Schaefer tweeted, Facebook and Instagram have permanently suspended me from their platforms without explanation. It was mostly just pictures of my wife, dog, and memories of my mom who recently died. Big tech is relentless.
Thank you.
Reporting the truth is now illegal. Elijah Schaefer was smeared in many stories where, this one for instance, YouTube reportedly let Trump supporter profit as he tweeted from the Capitol. They say, the world watched years of toxic Trumpism come to a terrifying head Wednesday as Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in a bid to undermine free and fair elections.
Yeah, that's the 24 hours,
People
though, but
have
it's still
profited
on
from
there.
fanning the flames of violence, as Nandini Jami, who runs Check My Ads, an agency that helps brands avoid supporting harmful content, pointed out on Twitter. She said, this man's YouTube channel is fully monetized by YouTube. He's making money off this. They go on to say that Schaefer is a right-wing personality on the Glenn Beck-founded outlet Blaze TV. In a now-deleted tweet Wednesday, he posted a photo he said was taken in Nancy Pelosi's office and called the rioters revolutionaries Schaefer has since claimed he was not directly part of the group who stormed the Capitol and was covering the events as a member of the press. Elijah Schaefer is a member of the press, but he does have his own political opinions. This is another area where they start to mix the line. Elijah Schaefer says that he is credentialed. To the extremely dishonest slanderers, I have a federal congressional press license, and police did not have a problem with me reporting on the events. How else do you think I wasn't arrested and allowed to leave and cross police lines? Some of you guys don't get how this works.
I do feel that that's a bit of a gray area. I might not agree with him, but if he has press credentials and he is there just documenting, then I get it. And I'm not just saying anyone who goes in there and says, I'm press, but like if you actively are like press for real and you have the credentials, I could understand that.
Like I said, in fifth generational warfare, in order to actually be involved in the propagandizing, the sharing of information, the persuasion, you need the accounts to do it. Elijah Schaefer is a journalist. He may be an opinion guy and a pundit in some capacity, but he does go on the ground and report from many different places across the country. The left doesn't like the way he frames things. Surprise, surprise. The right doesn't like the way the left frames things. The left is now trying to argue that he is somehow not there in the capacity of a journalist, but he was. Nandini Jami says, confirmed, Calm is no longer sponsoring the YouTube channel of the guy who broke into Nancy Pelosi. Thanks, I guess, too little too late. But is it fair to say he broke in when he's a media personality with press credentials? I certainly don't think so. And this is where we're heading. Now, initially, in this tweet, Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, said that she had lost around 4,000 followers. Christopher Rufo says, I'm down 2,000. I think it's partly a dramatic moment with a lot of crossing opinions. Could also be that Twitter is deleting a lot of accounts. I believe that when we're seeing these Elijah and Brendan Straka being purged, but more importantly, why I would call this a mass purge, because Strzok had, Brendan Strzok, he had 500,000 people following that. They've all been wiped out from this channel. It's just gone. So that's a massive purge. Now, I don't know if all of the people associated with it have been banned. He said they did. So again, maybe it'd be a little hyperbolic to say mass purge for now. My response to Rufo was, I'm betting it's tons of people cheering on what happened getting banned, but also a mass purging of accounts in general. For now, we don't know exactly what's going on, but it's going well beyond just social media. Tom Elliott tweeting about CNN. Tom is the founder and editorial of Grabian Media and Newslist.co. He tweets, CNN's Oliver Darcy is going after cable companies for carrying Fox News. In a newsletter, I believe this is the newsletter that comes out from reliable sources on CNN. Tom says, Oliver Darcy writes, somehow these companies have escaped scrutiny and entirely dodged this conversation. That should not be the case anymore. After Wednesday's incident of domestic terrorism on Capitol Hill, it is time TV carriers face questions for lending their platforms to dishonest companies that profit off of disinformation and conspiracy theories. After all, it was the very lies that Fox, Newsmax, and OAN spread that helped prime President Trump's supporters into not believing the truth, that he lost an honest and fair election. Yes, Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Mark Levin and others are responsible for the lies they peddle to their audiences. But the TV companies that beam them into millions of homes around the country also bear some responsibility, and yet we rarely, if ever, talk about them. Tom says, this is why I posted that supercut yesterday of media personalities endorsing violence. Oliver is trying to use Wednesday's events to deplatform conservative media outlets.
I guess they should probably stop inciting violence by pushing conspiracy theories then. That would be good.
Despite CNN and MSNBC doing far more to contribute to today's charged political environment. In another post that came presumably from reliable sources, they write, I asked all of these companies for comment on Thursday. I asked them if they have any guidelines governing the content that they carry on their platforms. I asked them if they have any regret over carrying right-wing channels that were in many ways partly responsible for what took place in our nation's capital. Only CenturyLink provided a comment saying it was committed to providing a variety of broadcast channels covering thousands of topics, and that as a company does not endorse specific media or outlets. He says AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Charter, and Dish did not. They chose simply to ignore the questions. At least Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and others have acknowledged they have some responsibility for the content they host, and they have very clearly posted community guidelines on their websites for all to see. Why do we expect any less of TV companies? More is coming. More is coming. The censorship will affect the chain links. It's not just about whether or not Twitter will ban you. I believe they'll come for Parler very soon. On Parler, there are many people saying things that are, in my opinion, very crazy. Conspiracy theories. They think Trump hasn't conceded. It's deepfakes. He did. It's over. Like I said, man, 99.99%. It's going to be Joe Biden. He's going to be sworn in. They're going to count the votes. It's going to happen.
Tim, you spent the last 2 months actively promoting said conspiracy theories, so trying to disassociate yourself now just makes you look like a jackass. So people like me already don't like Tim for obvious reasons. He's a right-wing grifter, he promotes conspiracy theories, he promoted Trump, all that shit. But now he's being weaselly and trying to back away from all the comments he's made in the last couple months because I don't think he wants his channel to be banned for inciting this shit. And now I would imagine a lot of people who like Tim are probably going to say, Tim, you bitch. Why aren't you supporting true patriots or whatever bullshit they're going to say? It's the grift. It's the constant grift. He's got to constantly be shifting what he's saying as long as he can protect the grift. The grift is the most important thing, and it must be protected at all costs. Aviscus says, first time viewing the stream on Twitch, what's the HP bar for? That is the stream boss. Every time someone like gives bits or does a donation or subs or whatever, it takes points off the stream boss, and whoever kills the stream boss becomes the next stream boss.
In order to prevent something like we saw yesterday, I believe there needed to be sort of some kind of reconciliation. Like Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz objecting and calling to hear the evidence. That was obstructed by the Trump supporters who actually made their way into the Capitol. In many instances, storming through the doors. In some instances, the doors being open. Don't ask me why that happened. The double standard is real, however, and I'm not convinced that what we're going to see any change. And I'll tell you what I think comes next. Just because you ban people doesn't mean they cease to exist, which I said. But just because you shut down companies doesn't mean people will give up. What's happening now is if these networks ban, say, Fox News or OAN or Newsmax, is that people will find other ways to communicate.
But they will do so less effectively, and if those become a problem, those will also be dealt with. That's the point. No one is saying that getting people off of Parler and banning people like Donald Trump off of Twitter is the end-all be-all, and that's the end of the problem. That's a straw man to say that anyone is saying that. The point is, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, right? You constantly need to be playing whack-a-mole with fascist idiots, because they're always going to be there. They're always going to be evil people who want to dominate others and want to air their grievances on the national stage by hurting other people. You always have to whack-a-mole them, and I'm using that metaphorically. I'm not saying any sort of violence. I'm saying things like banning from Twitter and deplatforming them, stuff like that. Nipping it in the bud before it becomes a problem. And that's fine. That's just something you have to do.
Can't just shut it down. Eventually, the establishment and the mainstream media, corporate media, will lose access to those who may even disagree with them. I mean, even Fox News lost half their viewership when Tucker Carlson challenged Sidney Powell, yet Darcy wants to claim that Fox is the worst. When the biggest problem...
Yeah, because a bunch of the Fox viewers are so radicalized that even Fox News is too left-wing for them.
With Fox is maybe a couple hours of opinion content out of 24 hours of, news content. Well, they do reruns, so let's say, 18 hours of news content, if that. Ultimately, what happens is...
6 minutes ago, Apple removes Parler from the App Store in wake of U.S. Capitol riot. Apple has removed Parler from its iPhone App Store because posts on the pro-Trump social network related to the U.S. Capitol riot last week called for violence. So maybe now they did? Can you check for Parler now?
Different networks
Okay, thank you.
will be formed. Different means of communication will exist, and the establishment will continue to lose.
Hey, Parler's gone. Rotten hell.
Their ability to influence the masses.
Y'all should have downloaded Parler like an hour ago. You could have sold your phones to chuds for 5 times what they're worth. On Craigslist. It's like when they took Flappy Bird off the App Store and people were selling their phones with Flappy Bird for a bunch of money. Oh.
You need to give space on your platform to attract people to come in so that you can de-radicalize and debunk. The mass purges, the banning of people, will do the opposite. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Gravel Institute, and I've had good words for them, and I'm sorry to see them tweeting something of this nature. The Gravel Institute produces YouTube videos, and they're trying to be like a left-wing Prager university. I posted one of their videos supporting it because I agree with the marketplace of ideas. That's the idea, right? And that's what the fifth generational warfare means. That you will watch a video from Gravel, you will watch a video from Prager, and you will decide which one you think made the right argument and persuaded you. It's really about persuasion. Gravel says, quote, "But if leftists had stormed the Capitol, you'd support them." And they said, yes. They are fighting for a good cause. Fascists are fighting for a bad cause. This should not be difficult. One person who has got the socialist rose and the black flag said, "I am not anti-revolutionary. However, such would need to come with overwhelming support from the masses and partial government support. The insurrection did not meet that criteria and actually hurt its own cause. I do not think we should perform apologetics for such tactics." Warren, the real W. O'Neill on Twitter, is 100% correct about what happened. They hurt themselves, they had very little support, and ultimately it was bad. Gravel responded saying, "Obviously we're not. The people who did it are goons, but the tactic itself isn't the problem so much as the fact that people doing it are fascists."
I don't know if I generally agree with that premise. I'm of the opinion that I'm a fan of democracy. For some reason, for some people, that's a controversial opinion these days. I don't know why. For good or for ill, I think people should have the right to have a say in their country, which is why I think it's important, if I want to promote left-wing ideals, if I want to promote a better world for other people, then I need to do so by convincing them, not by forcing that onto them. Now, once we reach some sort of plurality that allows us to get power democratically, then like anything, I mean, you know, you change the law or whatever, not to be, you know, suppressive of other people, but just you make laws that are good for everyone. And I believe that you should do that through the mechanisms of government we currently have. And if we have problems with the government, like things like the Electoral College, then we should do so from within inside the system. I don't think violent revolution is just about ever the answer. It never ends well for anyone. It's just a bad idea, right? So I'm in favor of, like, convincing people that more left-wing ideas are good. I'm not about, you know, violently overthrowing the government. I think that's stupid.
Wrong. Many people on the left slammed the Gravel Institute for this. And with my respect to all of you.
Hype train also. Thank you.
Who responded, I give you my respect. It's wrong. It doesn't work. We are not in a world where taking a bill.
And I went full marketplace of ideas because I'm not a tanky. Guys, advocating for, like, violent action to install your ideal form of government is being a fucking tanky. And we're not having that shit here.
Does anything. A cop died. A woman died. 3 other people died. 5 people in total lost their lives. What was accomplished other than they hurt their own cause? Why would Gravel tweet something like this? Well, I don't know.
How would I stop reactionaries from retaking power? By implementing policies that actually help the population and get them to understand that these policies are in their best interest.
Ultimately,
you know, being popular, the thing the government should be if it wants to rule the people.
They did end up removing it, and good. I'm glad they did. But think about this. I want to know they believe this. I was giving them credit and praising them. I'm not going to do that ever again. Because they think what happened yesterday was a good thing, except the wrong people? No.
Oh my goodness, Tim. You were so excited yesterday, too. You just want an excuse to shit on Gravel. Is it Gravel? I guess in my head, I've only ever heard it read, so I, like, assumed it was Gravel.
Well, I'm sorry. Storming the Capitol was wrong. Man, when I saw what happened to George Floyd, okay, my heart was broken.
Oh, shut up, Tim. You don't give a shit. Oh my god, Hans Wormhat just posted a video. It's not Tuesday. It's not Tuesday.
Even though, and even after that's the body cam footage comes out, showing us what happened, and it changes the context and there's nuance, and even after the riots, my heart is still broken because I value life. I don't like seeing people get hurt. I don't care if they're dumb people. You know what I mean? I've often said the problem with social media censorship is that you're telling people who are stupid they're not allowed to be here. Like conspiracy theorists. Just because you're not smart enough doesn't mean you don't get to participate. But I don't.
If you're promoting dangerous, radicalizing conspiracy theories, you don't get to participate. Sorry.
Care who dies. I don't like...
Like, if I'm on the subway and I shit in my hand and I start rubbing it on the windows, the subway has every right to tell me to leave and forcibly remove me if necessary. Like, you can't just be like, I get the right to be the worst all the time, and everyone has to deal with me and platform me. No, it's not how it works.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Ooh.
So the same goes for all the Black Lives Matter
Level
stuff.
2 complete on
I
the
don't
hype
want
train.
the violence because it leads to more death. And following George Floyd, we saw more death. And when I saw that video of the woman dying in the Capitol, my
If we get to
nothing
level
funny
5,
about the
I'll do
tools of
Hans.
capitalism.
How about that? That does sound good.
heart was broken. Again, it is nightmarish. I don't want to see this stuff anywhere, in other countries or here.
There's nothing
Now when I heard
funny
this
about
cop
the
lost his
tools of
life, that made me
capitalism.
even angrier. Somebody hit him over the head with a fire extinguisher. Psychopath. So stupid. To get into a building to do what? To do what?
There's
People have
nothing
to die
funny
for
about
this.
the tools of capitalism.
I am upset with police who violate their oath to the Constitution and oppress the working class and the people, because I believe in the people, not the elites and the establishment. I believe in freedom, peace, and I
nothing
don't
funny
believe
about the
violence
tools of
works, and I think the
capitalism.
evidence shows us this based on everything we're seeing. The backlash to Gravel, they deleted this. So good, I'm glad they did, and I hope they reconsider
Level
why it's
3
a bad
complete.
idea. Now, the last thing I'll say is
Wow, you guys really want Hans Wormhat, don't you? Jesus.
that I am not an optimistic person after all of this, okay? Ars Technica reports, I'm not going to show you the tweet. They say, Chinese tweet on Uyghurs not against Twitter rules. Twitter bans the dehumanization of a group of people based on ethnicity.
Okay, we hit level 5. We're at 177% of level 5, so I think it's fair to say we'll do Hans after this. I'll get to all these bit messages and stuff when we're done with this video, by the way.
China tweeted about what's going on with the Uyghur Muslims, concentration camps, horrifying stories and reports, video footage. And it is one of the greatest tragedies of our generation, atrocities that is happening right now. And it seems like nothing's being done to stop it, and it freaks me out.
I agree. That shit's bad.
Tweet-
That's the one thing me and the sentient beanie agree on. The Chinese concentration camps are some fucked up shit.
Twitter allows it. We're not
There's
talking
nothing
about
funny about the
a
tools of
president,
capitalism.
I guess, making a statement or whatever. We're talking about the praising of concentration camps. And it's sickening to me. But I'm going to tell you my principles. I am glad China posted this.
There's
I am
nothing
glad.
funny about
Verified
the tools
account
of
said it. You know why?
capitalism.
We need to know they're doing this. If they keep it a secret, or those who would talk about it are silenced, we would never know they were doing it. Now Twitter says you can post it.
There's nothing funny about
The banning
tools
of certain individuals
capitalism.
for their political opinions is wrong. And this is exactly why. I am grateful that Twitter would allow this to exist so we can see it and be shocked by it. To know what they're doing and what they're
There's nothing
calling
funny
these
about
women.
the tools of capitalism.
But they shouldn't be doing it to other people. They shouldn't be doing it to American citizens. We need to know what people are saying and what they think so we understand who to avoid and who's trying to sneak past our
There's nothing
safeguards
funny
with
about
crazy
the tools
ideas.
of capitalism.
I got one final tweet for you, and it comes from Mike Cernovich. He posted a poll. Do you believe that Trump's speech from earlier today was a concession speech? Around 20 to 25% said no. Trump conceded. It is not humiliating. It is not weakness. I think Trump thrashed about violently, and he probably should have conceded before this. He probably should have ensured people didn't storm the Capitol. Maybe he didn't realize it was going to happen. He should have condemned it immediately because they obstructed the objection process, which was good for him, for his followers, for the people who support him and what he believes in. Mike says, if you're among 25% who voted no, I love you, and it's time to move on. Go home to your families, sign off, unfollow anyone who led you to think this way. It's all good. People miss you. Trump tweeted, to all of those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Trump conceded.
There's nothing
It wasn't
funny
him
about the
coming out and
tools of
saying he was a loser or
capitalism.
anything. He says that, there's going to be a new administration and a peaceful transition, and it's the right thing to do. It's remarkable to me how many people on the left are attacking him and mocking him. There have been many
There's
resignations from the
nothing
Trump
funny about the
administration.
tools of
Listen,
capitalism.
I think if you are mad at someone and they do something that is good for you, you should praise it. It's that simple. Trump is now
There's
saying
nothing funny about
no to the
tools of
violence, no to the
capitalism.
criminals, and I'm resigning, and I will give him credit for it. I will not give credit to the leftists who are escalating things.
What?
There's nothing funny
Banning
about
the
tools of
people who
capitalism.
incited this violence is an escalation. Get fucked, Tim.
If they come out and they say, I agree, it's time for peace and unity and to heal,
There's
good.
nothing funny
I
about the
praised
tools of
Joe Biden when he
capitalism.
said it. I'll criticize him for the hypocrisy, but I'll say, listen, he's doing the right thing now, so okay. All right. I'm not perfect either. Sometimes I get it wrong, and I'll try to do my best.
There's nothing
The
funny
worst
about the
thing
tools
now,
of
I suppose,
capitalism.
is the censorship is going to lead to that escalation. You're not going to know what people are thinking. They're going to hold their tongues, but they're going to be waiting, and they're going to be ready, and they're going to be angry.
Most of that
There's
radicalization
nothing funny
was
about the
taking
tools of
place on places
capitalism.
like the Donald.win and Parler anyway. Or 4chan or 8chan or wherever, and even sometimes on Facebook. But, like, if you take
There's
these
nothing
things
funny about the
away,
tools of
then it's
capitalism.
harder for them to organize and harder for them to radicalize new people into it. That's a good thing.
When their ideas are suppressed, repressed, and the people are oppressed, eventually they
nothing
will
funny
snap
about the
back.
tools of
And I fear
capitalism.
that what we saw the other day is just the beginning.
Stopping fascism was the real fascism all along. Brilliant.
My prediction now is that
There's nothing funny
Joe
about
Biden
the
has said he's
tools
going to
of
enforce
capitalism.
new sweeping terror laws for domestic terror laws. That's going to result in people becoming the resistance. It's going that force will create some kind of reaction.
If I rolled my eyes as much as I want to, my optic nerve would snap.
You need to allow people who feel unheard their chance to speak, and when they aren't allowed, then you get violence. Unfortunately,
I don't need to hear what raving lunatics have to say. They do not deserve an equal place at the table just because they were conned into a conspiracy by someone on 4chan.
the ideologies are so far apart now, it won't happen. The left is saying, why would we want to talk to, these fringe far-right individuals? And it's like, then if you don't, then the chaos ensues next. The institutions are controlled by the left. They'll continue to make these moves and towards censorship, and it will result in those getting censored, getting angrier, feeling like their ideas aren't, like they themselves aren't allowed to exist. And when their grievances are not addressed, and there is no path for the redress of grievances, then
Yeah, I'll rate
people
Jake after
will get
Hans.
violent. I guess the saying was, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable.
Oh, so Tim's options here are either let Trump supporters install a dictator, or we're gonna install Trump as a dictator. How about you go fuck yourselves? That'd be good.
That's what scares me. Because in today's day and age, you win through persuasion. I certainly hope we do not head down this dark path. And I've said it time and time again. But I'm sorry if,
There's nothing
it
funny
sounds
about the
pessimistic to
tools of
say.
capitalism.
I don't see a reason why people will de-escalate. I'm seeing media outlets blame Tucker Carlson, try to ban him. I'm seeing Walk Away and all these other platforms banning people. It's going to escalate. And I'm not saying it because I want it to. I don't. I hope it doesn't. I hope everyone goes home, signs off, goes to their families and friends, finds a hobby. I'm just not confident. I'll leave it there. The next segment will be tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Well, we're going to be having a guest who specializes in social media censorship, talking about what's going on. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all at 8 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastIRL.
I hate Tim so much.
In a stunning...
He tries to pretend to be like, oh, I'm just, Meanwhile, he's inciting violence for months and calling for, like, Civil War II. What an absolute douche. I hope his channel gets deleted.